to another edition of the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I'm your host, Dougie Almeida. And I'm joined today by fellow comedians, Mr. Mike Merrifield.
Hello.
And Phil Kors. What's up, fellas?
Hey, now.
As we go, always open the show, it's generally the last time we saw each other. And the last time we saw each other, Phil, you actually picked me up from the airport, which is always
I
nice.
did. That was awesome, man. I love that. At the Cactus Comedy Classic, which was pretty cool, Arizona. And
Absolutely.
yeah, man, that was great. I'm so happy to be back with you.
Absolutely. I guess the only thing I could do now is ask you to help me move, or perhaps help me manscape. I don't know what else would be more.
I do have a truck, and I do have a shaver, so.
Well, that's what it takes. And Mike, I think the last time and first time we met was at the World Series of Comedy main event when it was in the Kansas City area a couple of years ago.
I feel like I think it was St. Louis, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I
St.
mean.
Louis. Yeah, that's in the area, I guess.
I know it's really weird because it was Kansas City, it was Kansas, St. Louis, and Missouri, and it's St. Louis, Kansas. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard
to keep track.
There was a river in between, and I
Right.
saw the arches from the shitty hotel.
It's one of those weird things. Like, I think that is the first time we met, but I feel like, I don't know. It's a weird thing with comics. Like, I feel like I've met everybody. Like, Phil, I feel like we've worked together, haven't we?
I don't think so, but we probably have, though. That's the thing.
Your name looked familiar.
probably
Everything seemed
Facebook
familiar.
friends.
That could be what it is, maybe.
Maybe we partied in your shed before.
That could be, yeah. A lot of people have.
Yeah, so.
You
small
got
world.
you got a party shed?
I thought he was in his party shed.
No, I'm borrowing a friend's set right now. And the true fans of his will know who it is based on the things on this shelf back here. But I got a good buddy who's a YouTuber, and he's letting me use his setup because I don't have a setup.
Well, that's a nice setup. I really like the eclecticness of that. I mean, you got Jack Daniels, you got a bowling trophy, you got some beer. I mean, boy, that says a lot. You know, you could just look at that setup.
Yeah, well, it's really not even a setup. It's legit his shed, and he just put some cameras in it. So there wasn't much decorating that took place.
Oh, so there wasn't much art behind that. It was just
that stuff was already there.
Well, capture a moment and label it forever.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Cactus Comedy Classic at Stir Crazy Comedy Club was a lot of fun. I found out that the people in Glendale, Arizona, kind of are my people.
Oh yeah, you did great, man. I remember the fire you brought on stage. That was perfect.
Oh man, I it's always weird when you do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like when I go on stage, I'm going to perform and do a show. I'm one way. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to relax. But something about these festivals and I just never feel the same. Like, I just think too much. Sometimes I just overthink it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because you're in a competition and there's so many rules in a competition. There's so many things that you have to follow, and you're like, you're worried about, performing at your A game and being your best and impressing the industry. And I think that those are, what all comedians go through. But I also think that those are like the things where it's like almost like you got to let go of all that. And it's just like, it's just another show. Just, you're going to rock it. You're going to do your best. And like, try your best to eliminate those, because it is like one of those things where, you get deceived when you don't get first place, even though you killed the room. It's like one of those things like it messes with you because you're like, why didn't I win? But it's also like, just think about all the, when you go through the whole competition, it's like just like a normal comedy show. Like, people at the beginning, they're already judged, like per that round. But it's like after that, it's like, somebody could have a really killer set, and then they end up, doing better or whatever it is. It's just like, it's just so many factors to it. But when it comes down to it, it's like, I think it's all about the networking and like meeting the people that you want to meet. I think that's what's going to keep it going. And that's the most important thing to me at the festivals.
And you guys with the Broken Drift, you guys do a great, you guys run a good organization, a good show. Everything's professional, and that's always good. Mike, I mean, I don't know have you been in a festival? Are you like a,
Yeah, I've done a bunch of them, and I think they're the the worst thing for comedy. I mean, they're good for the networking aspect, but there's no way to have a good set unless, like Phil said, you really have to approach it like, this is just another show. I don't care what happens. You just go up and do it. But I don't think comedy should ever be a competition. You should never. We're all technically in competition with each other anyway in this business, but to narrow it down like that, and it makes people harbor bad feelings. You feel crappy about how it went. It's just, I don't think anything about it is good. I mean, a festival where it's not a competition, that's what it's all about. But when you add that competition, you're going to pick a winner. Like, it's all so subjective. I don't know how you pick a winner. It doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of saying too. Is like, that's very hard too, because some of these competitions, I'm like one of the judges, and it's like, man, how do you even like pick between like people that are really like, there's sometimes the lineups are like perfect, and it's like just like an overall great show.
Right.
And for me as a comedian, I want the audience to remember the entire night, and not just like one comedian. If they remember the whole night, then they're going to come back. And so like it is extremely tough, and I think it's just like, if more competition or more festivals were less competition and more about networking and stuff like that, I think that that would be a more positive thing to promote. In
I
the
think what started it is the last comic standing, and it had a lot of implications. It first of all, it set the whole precedent for we need to have comedians compete against each other, and you see it in clubs all the time, man. The first time I ever really noticed it and kind of understood what was happening, I was working with my buddy Dave Landau, and people would come up. We're doing a co-headline show, we're flip flopping, and people inevitably every show would come up and tell us, oh, you were my favorite, or hey, I liked you better than the other guy. It's like, oh, you mean my friend of 15 years? Like
Yeah.
you don't have to tell me that. Like this isn't American Idol. I think all of that stuff, they started that whole competition thing. I think it's poison for comedy. It shouldn't be about that. No one should ever tell you you're better than the other guy. Like it's, and what's weird is that they want to tell you that. They think that's a good thing. Like, I'll make him feel good. I'll tell him he's better than the other guy. But like, that's my friend you're talking about. Like that. And first of all, I'm not better than Dave Landau. That dude's friggin' hilarious. Like, so, I mean, I
Yeah.
get it, but I don't like the competition of it at all. I mean, it's all subjective.
I've been in both. I've been in the festival where you're showcasing, and I've been in the competition. And obviously, the showcasing is a lot less pressure.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely a different thing. But what I also learned is that, like you guys said, when it is a competition, my only goal is to go there and do my best and have a good time. One way or the other, I'm not going to. I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's our opinion now. I mean, but I'll be honest. The first couple ones I went to, I was terribly bummed out that I didn't, even move on to the next level. And I did all the, well, I was funnier than that guy, all that crap. And it's like that shouldn't even be brought into it. This is an art. It's not something you compete at. It's not a sport. The fact that that even gets entered into it at all is, I think it's horrible for comedy.
I see. Yeah, and I mean, I know as a performer, like I technically, I'm pretty into it. Where I'll know in the first few minutes, more or less, if that was an advancing set. If that was one that's going to,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And there's ones that I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't get picked.
Right.
And I think as the artist, that's to me is the most important thing.
Well, I'll be real honest with you, man. I had one of the biggest meltdowns I've ever had in my career was at a comedy festival competition, and I mean, I guess I'll just tell the story. It was the the San Francisco comedy festival, and there's a series of rounds. You do all of these shows on the road. Anyway, it came down to me and one other guy, and I ended up losing it, and I just snapped, dude. I was drunk, and I cussed out the guy running the competition. I didn't think I should have lost, and it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my career. I completely let it get to me. And I acted like a total ass, and I wish I could take it back, but I was hammered. I went in, I thought I was talking to, they had this one guy that worked for the festival that kept track of the math. There was all this crazy math they did with the scorekeeping. And I thought I was cussing him out, and I found out the next day that everyone was in that green room. Like all the other comics were in there. The guy that owns the festival was in there. I was so drunk, I didn't even know that I had literally made an ass out of myself in front of everyone. So I guess maybe this is more of a lesson about drinking than it is about comedy competitions. But yeah, it was horrible.
I don't think it's ever a good idea to be drinking heavily and then go to state your opinion in any circumstance.
Well, I mean, isn't that what we do as Americans?
Yeah, as we drink up and share our opinion. I mean, I've had other comics ask me about it. I go, look, man, the whole idea is like win, lose, or draw. You go to the show up and showcase to get in front of people that you never, if you look at it that way, maybe it is better, but it is hard to judge. I mean, there's a deadpan comic and there's a high energy comic. How are you going to judge which one's better? You know what I mean? I would hate to be a judge. I mean, if you think about it, I would not like to be a judge like Phil, like you do,
Yeah, and it's tough too. And there's there's also competitions where like the bringer, the one of the criteria is audience is reaction. I mean, like when they cheer or whatever. So it's like if they have 15 people out there that are their friends, it's like most of the time they're gonna cheer for their friend. That's what makes it one of those things. But I'll share a quick story. I was in a comedy competition in Miami-Dade County. I thought it was just Miami, and it was just like, you know, the whole county. And it was just like, it was in a Haitian restaurant. It was advertised as like this big old festival, and it was just like this, like I ate crap the whole time. It was like I was like a new comedian. I only had like 5 minutes of Disney material, and it just like was the worst. But it was like it was kind of bad because like I bombed that first day, and I was like in Florida for 4 days, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Kind of thing. I'm just like, well, I'm already out of this competition, but it was like kind of nice at the same time because then I was like, I came back and I knew that I wasn't advancing, but it was just like just to watch everyone else do their thing, make some friends, and that's like kind of how I took the whole thing. Was just that I made more friends out of that situation than where it was like performance wise, but it was like, you know, these are my friends now that have been my friends for a long time in the comedy world.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a little bit of hidden gems, you know what I mean? Like the comedy competition is not perfect, but it's also just like, it is a chance for you to meet your friends and to meet people that will, you know, can help you in later shows, no matter how good or bad you do. That's how I take them, just because I do think the competition is very tough in the comedy world because we're already competing for stage time as it is. And it's like, we don't need to do that. We can all grow together. We can all create together. And, you know, if that was less of a factor, even if you go to a competition knowing that like, okay, I may get dead last, but my goal is to at least talk to the industry, talk to my fellow comics or whatever. And then like, you know, get, you know, just to get to know people. Cause I feel like even, you know, knowing you from Florida, knowing like people from around the country is always like good too, because then you ever get your own private gigs, you hit somebody up, you know, that's always somewhere that you can crash or, you know, just to keep collaborating on, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think for newer comics that aren't touring around, it's a great way to get experience to regionally different. That was when I first started going to comedy festivals. That was what a learning experience for me. I'm like, wow, I'm meeting comics from the Northwest, and I'm their style. I'm meeting, you know, you're just getting out of your home area, and you're kind of realizing. You realize another thing too, that there's a lot of people with similar jokes. I noticed that, you know, they're like, oh, you know, my friend tells a joke like that. My other friend, you know, you start thinking, you realize how small that is, you know, when it comes to material. You know, I'll share this with you guys. I was actually at a comedy festival this weekend, and if you already know, my brother had passed away. So I was actually in that position where, you know, do I attend my brother's funeral or do I go to a comedy festival? And, you know, I mean, I set up everything. I took care of everything for the services for my brother. And without a long story short, I was going to be there, but something changed with other members who couldn't make it. So I didn't want to cancel and lose like $1,000 in travel costs, you know, as one thing. But, you know, as comics, you know, as you make a decision like that, I mean, there was a couple people that said, I can't believe you missed your brother's funeral for a comedy fest, you know. But I decided to do that because thinking of how my brother would have wanted me to do it. You know,
Well, and I'm not trying to, I'm trying to make it funny, but I don't think he noticed. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know your brother, but I'm assuming he would have told, like, I know when my sister died, one of the first things I did is went right to that stage because there's nothing. I mean, it made me feel better. It made me feel like it didn't happen. So I feel like he would have been cool with that. And funerals suck anyway, dude. You know.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, because that, you know, it was hard. It was hard to perform with that in the back of my head. But that was my first thought, Mike, was like, you know, for me to deal with this, I really want to do what I need to do. You know,
yeah,
you give me away.
You know, it's our drug. So in a time of need, you didn't run, but you went to your drug, you know, to feel good about yourself for a little while. So.
Well, you know, my fat ass ain't running anywhere.
You walked at a quick pace, I guess.
Quickly walked to it. Well, I appreciate the backing on it. But
and I don't think there's a right or wrong. You know, I mean, everyone handles death differently. Everyone handles everything differently. And that was like maybe a moment where you just like, you may have connected more with your brother just being away from that situation than like, you know, being there. Like, I mean, I think that's like, Mike is right. It's like a sad time. It's not really like that fun. It's like everything about your brother, you want to remember everything happy and joyful and everything that you can share. And that's like comedy is like bringing that. You're like bringing the light. So it's like you're almost like you're letting your brother's light still shine by doing what you're doing. So I don't think you're in the wrong.
And it's $1,000, man. I mean, that's a lot of money too. I mean, you know, with the pandemic and everything, you know. Yeah, I was supposed to be funny. I didn't mean for you guys to just stare at me oddly when I said that. I'm sorry.
No, but listen, it is what it is. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't, you know, like, you know, you book these things, you know, and I was actually mad because originally when I booked it, I booked just one way flight, Because like you were saying, Phil, nothing worse than going to a festival for like 4 or 5 days and getting eliminated in the first day.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like,
And
okay,
you're,
wow.
you're hanging around like a dope all week. You know, hey, did you go up
And
yet?
all those people that saw you lose, like see you walk, and they look at you like, yeah, I saw it.
Oh,
Buddy.
remember me? I lost. Hi, guys.
Remember me? I bombed in front of my peers earlier. You remember that?
Right.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, aren't you supposed to leave? But I did that. You know, I was like, I'm just going to get a one-way ticket. I'm going to get the hotel for one night. And then I was looking it over. I'm like, I hate just still, you know, and I looked at, and I didn't recognize anybody in the list. I thought, okay, there's a good chance I may, because sometimes you look at a list of who you're competing against. You're like,
Oh yeah. Like I'm not even going. Forget it. Yeah. I've definitely done that.
I'm going to the funeral.
Yeah.
You know, but
I'll go to somebody else's funeral. I don't want to go compete with these guys.
Exactly. I'll take somebody to the airport to help them move. Exactly. So, you know, it was interesting, but I ended up changing it. And of course, I got stuck. And, you know, it is what it is.
But sometimes, like Phil said, though, hanging out at those festivals, I did the Boston Comedy Festival and got kicked out of it right away and totally felt like crap for the first day. And then Tom Simmons was in it. And so my buddy that had driven out there with me, we made it our goal to go to every one of Tom Simmons' shows and cheer and laugh like assholes to just try to get them as far as we could. And we got them all the way to the finals. Like we would get applause breaks going with other audience members. It was so fun. And in hindsight, I feel that was early in my career, but in hindsight, I'm like, well, that was kind of crappy to do to all those other comedians. You know what I mean? To help Tom, like, not that he couldn't have done it on his own, but we were definitely helping him by getting applause breaks and stuff going. So,
well, I'm sure you guys weren't the only two people clapping. You know, I mean,
no, it's not like it was just us. It's not like he was bombing and then two people kept starting applause breaks. Yeah, you're right. But we were laughing so hard. It was so fun, man. And you know, that was 15 years ago, and I remember like it was yesterday. And you know, had I got back on a plane or got back in my car and left the second I got taken out, I would have never had that experience. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tom would have never made it to second place.
No.
No way.
But like you said, it's how we deal with it. And I love the camaraderie aspect of it, you know, because some of these festivals, that's what it's like, you know. I mean, you get to see the same people. Like some festivals, it's like summer camp. You know, you see these people again, and you just get to hang out and see. And there is nothing better. I mean, I remember the first time, and this comes from the first time I really went to L.A. You know, and I was at Ha Ha Comedy Club at the at their party, and Joey Medina had, you know, it says, come by and hang out, you know. And I was doing some stuff, and I was in there, and who do I know? And then next thing you know, I'm talking to somebody, like 15 people come up. Hey, Dougie, hey, Dougie, hey, Dougie. And the one guy's like, I thought you weren't from here. Like, you know, but it's all from booking shows and having shows booked in Florida, seeing people on the road, meeting them.
Yeah, I had the exact same experience at the Improv in LA. I walked in thinking, oh man, I'm a fish. I'm not going to know anyone. And I freaking knew everyone in there. And everybody was like, oh, what's up, Merrifield? I was like, oh man, I was so nervous to come in here.
Yeah.
But that camaraderie, man, that goes a long way. And that, you know, you're dealing with the death of a family member. You want to be with your comrades, man. You want to be with your friends that can make horrible jokes about it and make you feel better. And, you know,
exactly.
You can't be with a normal person in that time. You got to be with a comic.
Yeah.
Right. That's also, it's like cool because like in that situation, I mean, like the comedy world's a lot smaller than you think. So like, you know, you have your Jim Brewers, and then like just below that is our level of like, you know, working comedians who, you know, may not have a ton of TV credits or been on late night, but like, you know, they're in the scene, they're there all the time, we're all working. So it's like that one step below, or, you know, even like almost like close to that level of, you know, professionalism. I feel like, you know, once you start seeing the same people, you're like, wow, I am in this world. I am a part of this comedy community, because like, you know, you start seeing the same people. You're like, wow, okay, like this is what we're here for. We're here to keep working together and keep like, you know, growing this generation of comedy and comedians, and like keep going it. Like, you know, 10 years down the road, we better still be doing podcasts and better be doing movies and doing everything that we're doing, because like this is the time for all of us to keep growing and shining, I think.
Absolutely. You know, and you're right. The camaraderie thing's big, because it is great, you know, especially when you may be down and somebody comes up. Somebody said something when I got there tonight. He goes, oh, I haven't seen you. You're doing a lot of stuff. Just anything, you know, makes you feel good. It's like, oh, people recognize. Oh yeah, somebody said they watched one of my podcasts. They're like, I watched it. And, you know, I usually don't like to watch podcasts, but I watched about 30 seconds of yours.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that I always loved when I started doing comedy, is like I didn't play sports when I was young. I obviously never ran with a gang. I didn't have like a tight group of friends. And when I started doing comedy, even when I sucked, like I was a year in, all these big headline comics would come through the club and they would treat me, like not like an equal, but like an equal, like a human being, and I loved it. They didn't like treat me as a lesser human because I sucked and I only had 5 minutes. And I've always tried to have that same mentality. Whenever I always hang out with open micers, I always go to the open mics if the clubs have them. I People are people, man, and I've always loved that about this business is that, I mentioned Tom Simmons. He's a friend of mine. I've probably only hung out with Tom Simmons 3 times in 20 years, but I consider him one of my good friends. But I've actually only seen him 3 times in person. But sometimes that's all it takes is one cool weekend at a comedy club with another dude and you're friends for forever.
That's crazy because like I've only hung out with Doug like 3 or 4 times. I consider him like one of my best friends in the comedy world.
It's how it works, man. It's such a crazy community. I love it.
We couldn't even remember if it was New York or where the hell.
I was like, do we have LA? Where was it? Where did we meet? And it was I guess it was the North Hollywood Comedy Festival. I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have sworn. Yeah, it was like, dude, I could have sworn we've been performing before that, but
I think we ended up doing something that I don't know if it was a Broadway comedy club or something in New York one time. We didn't really talk much, but we were in the same area. And then it was the NoHo Comedy Festival where we were out there on the 19th.
It's hard to remember. When comics, like I'll work with a comic and I always say, hey, I always make a point of going, if I've met you in the past, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Like, hey, nice to see you, Phil, if I've met you before. Because I never remember, but I forget. I had a point when I started saying this, but it just completely left my head. Carry on, fellas.
Well, you say, well, going off your point is like I've learned something. I never say nice to meet you. I always say nice to see you.
Yeah.
That's a Hollywood thing. Yeah. But there is this confusing thing where Phil, I honestly thought we may have worked together before. Like it's such a weird thing where I'll work with a comic and they'll go, oh yeah, we did this gig. We did North Platte, Nebraska in 1997. And some guys get a little weird when you don't remember, but it's like, you're asking me to remember a Friday at work from 1997. Like this is a job. I do it every week. I don't remember where I worked 2 weeks ago, let alone individual. I forgot I smoked weed with Bob Saget in a limo at a strip joint. How do you forget something like that? How do you forget a memory like that? Oh, it could be the weed. Yeah, I guess.
The weed smoking.
I guess I answered my own question. Never mind.
How could you forget smoking weed with somebody? But yeah, you're right. And that's one of the things. That's one of the pet peeves my wife has always said about comics. Because my wife would meet a lot of comics and they'll come up to her, oh, nice to meet you. My wife like, I met this guy like 10 times already. He's your friend. He doesn't pay attention to the wife. I'm like, yeah, well, so we can. It could be worse. He'd be trying to bang you. You'd be trying to like.
Yeah, if I wasn't here, he'd remember your name.
Exactly.
He'd remember if he met you.
He'd be interested all of a sudden. I was having a conversation with somebody about material, and turning over material and writing material. Like one of my things I'm working on now is I had an opportunity, somebody was going to help me, maybe go to the dry bar, get in dry bar. I had the connection and I basically had to look at the person. I go, look, I don't got 25, 35 minutes I could do in front of Mormons right now, And I was honest. I didn't want to do it. So since then, all I've been doing is trying to write 35, 40 minutes of that material. So I have that focused. But my question to you guys was, what is like the most important aspect or element or composition of your material? Like if you, like some people say, well, it's got to be autobiographical. I don't want to make up just jokes. I want them to relate to somehow my life, right? But if you guys can answer that, like any particular aspects of the material you're writing or coming up with, what are some of the most important aspects of it?
I would say just like, finding that, like if any of your audience members can find one thing that they can relate to within themselves, then, they're going to connect with you on a deeper level. So it's like just finding that little thing, little phrase, little sentence that they can just be like, okay, I'm likable, I'm endearing, I am going to take them on a journey. So it's like, that's like important just to find that little bit of like, endearing moments that I think you can share with the audience that like, you don't necessarily have to start off so raw or like split the audience. I think that it's like important to really have the audience grasp them and then like, get them to feel for who you are as like a person. Like, that's the whole point is like for you to, be up on stage and almost be like a conversation. Like you're just thinking of topics on the fly, almost thinking, that's the beauty of the art. It's just like, you're just up there talking. So like just my goal is always just to to start off and to try to find something that can be relatable and on a universal level, which is like, it's not easy all the time, but like, we're all kids once. People can relate to having kids, or like, all the things that we can all like relate to is just like how I really like to start, and then like, obviously go wherever it goes. But I really try to be as endearing as possible from the beginning, so that way I can get the whole audience on my side.
Part of it, Mike.
Yeah, I think it depends on what style of writer you are. If you're like a setup punchline type writer, that none of these things that Phil just said really apply, because you're just kind of reciting it to them. But I 100% agree with what you said about the comfort level and making it look conversational, because the best comics in the world make it look like it's off the cuff. The best comics, somebody said this once, you're seeing a good comic when people in the audience are like, I could do this. I could probably do stand up.
Yeah.
Like when you see someone that's that conversational, it makes other people want to do it. And as we're talking about this, I was thinking what's interesting about Mark Norman is Mark Norman makes it look like it's off the cuff, but it's also still really, really well written, set up punchline jokes, but in this really confident conversational manner. Like it's not obvious he's doing jokes. He's talking, but they're also really brilliant setup punchline jokes. I don't know if that makes any sense. But
No, I think I agree. That's a perfect reference too, because I think he nails it. He nails the casualness, everything. Like he just chill on stage, but then like, he just hits you with the zinger, and he just like rips that rug right from under you, and you're like, wow, I didn't even see that coming. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, it looks effortless, but it's brilliant. It's amazing what he's doing. And there's so many comics in my career, man, that you watch him work and you just go, man, I'll never be that good. Like, why do I even try? I'll never be that good. And Mark Norman's one of those guys. Brian Regan, the first time I saw him, I was like, why am I even bothering? Why do I even get on stage? I'll never be that good. I mean, not that that's what it's about, but it definitely makes you feel like that when you see people that good. You're like, damn, that dude's good, man.
Well, how is it not? Like, even like we talk about the contest, you can fall into that. You could say, I didn't advance on my show, but everybody, the people who did, everybody had a funny set, so it wasn't like, but, so of course, like, it could have been, who knew? But until you ask yourself, I'm like, well, maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe, you know what I mean? And you're right. I've seen people do that where I've gone, oh shit,
Yeah.
I need to go be a karaoke guy or something.
Yeah, like watching. I had the pleasure of watching Geraldo, 15 years ago. Before anybody really knew who. I mean, everybody knew who he was, but he wasn't as big. But I just remember, like 10 minutes in, I was like, I'm not even doing what he's doing. Like what he's doing is so next level, man. And there's so many guys out there. I mean, it is what it is. I can only do what I can do, but yeah, it makes me feel good to see a great comic, but it's also it makes you feel like crap. You're like, dude, I'll never be that good. Oh, those jokes are brilliant, man.
Yeah. And that's what happens. I find myself seeking that. I remember the first profound advice I ever got was from Rich Voss, because he basically said to me, he says, there's going to come a day, you're a funny guy, he goes, but there's going to come a day you're not telling jokes. You're just going to be up there saying things that are funny.
You gotta be more conversational.
Yeah, you gotta look around.
Be more fucking conversational.
And I always joke around. It's like, I don't know if it's a good idea to get advice from Rich Voss, but one of the first jokes I wrote with that, was one of my open jokes. I walk out and go, I'm in a good mood because I fit in this coat. It's not. It's just something you say, right? It's just it's written for a purpose, and we know why. I know why I wrote it.
How important is that first thing you say when you get up there? It's so important. And speaking of things you've heard over the years, I've heard that the audience makes up its mind about you within like the first 15 seconds of you opening your mouth. So that first thing you say has got to be good. And there's been so many times where I tank a set because I think, oh, this is going to be good. I'm going to open with this. And then they just stare at you, So it's very dangerous. But that first thing you do is so important, man.
Well, that being said, do you guys usually have do you have a set outline that you're going to go up with and stick to, or do you kind of like bounce around a little bit based on what the audience is giving you? I mean, how much flexibility do you guys have in your act and presentation?
Yeah, I'll take that. So I try to be, I try to get new stuff in all the time, but I think that just the importance of that first joke, knowing that. Because even like doing the festival stuff, when we have submissions it's the same, very true. So like we check out within a minute, like we're watching the whole video, but like we already know within that first minute if that person's going to get passed or not. And we have a list of 12 judges too. So like there's a whole bunch of tallies and all this other stuff. But like when these comedians like submit their sets and the first 20 seconds is the host, and then the next 15 seconds are then like doing, crowd work, whatever it is, it's like already I'm already out of it. So like in a submission point, it's like I want to, get straight to the point. So like even at a show, I'm like almost the same way. It's like, okay, like who, like this person better like woo me from the bat. And it's like, so I always try, for me, I always like the stories that I hold like most passionate, or like the most like that I just that bring me the most joy. I always like try to start off with that, just because like that's like to me always just seems like the most fresh and the most like, like just if it's a killer joke, whatever it is, like I just feel like that first joke is so important that I'm like I want to do whatever is like I am most passionate about right now, because that's gonna show on stage of like my excitement level is like when it like telling the
Yeah.
story. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I usually like to have a certain opener, and depending, and sometimes I like to, whoever's up before me, if it's a host or if it's somebody else in the contest, I like to transition if I can come up with something funny. I think I was at a comedy festival once, and the guy before me was like 6'8". One of his jokes was like, everybody asked me if I'm in the NBA, So my
His
first
name
joke,
Travis.
can't
I think
remember,
that's I can't think of his last name, but that's Travis. Yeah, I recognize the bit.
but there was
Travis
a
Nelson, maybe. All right, go on. Anyway,
it
I'm
was a
sorry.
black gentleman. He was tall, I know that, and
Oh no,
yeah,
this was a white.
yeah.
But that's not bad the way I said that.
So so yeah, it was, he's all this stuff. So one of the first thing I came out and I looked at everybody and I just said, you guys may not believe this, but I play in the NBA, and it just
it
stupid.
works. Yeah.
It worked, and so but for the most part, there's an opening, and there's a close. But what happens in the middle can always be a little different.
That's
Uh,
always my move too, is watching the guy in front of me and seeing if I can pull something from their act. Both like a couple of weekends ago, I was recording an album and both comics did that. Well, actually, all three of them called back, or two of them. The second two called back to the previous ones, and it just murders. It murders because I think it shows the crowd you've been paying attention. I think it also helps you, like as a headliner, to acknowledge that you like the person in front of you, because if they are doing that, we're picking favorites thing. I think it's important for you to go up and go, hey, I like that guy too. He was very funny, but here's what I'm going to do, and it subtly lets them know that I'm on that guy's team. But I never really have a game plan when I go up there. I have enough material that I feel like I can remember enough to fill an hour. And it's probably why I haven't advanced farther, but I really don't plan much. I just go, and whatever I can remember, that's what I'll do. And I mean, sometimes it seems like there's an order to it, but it's not. And I'm terrible at writing things down. I'll think up a new bit. I'll do it for 3 months and I won't write it down, and I'll just forget it. And I have a terrible memory, but my thought process is if it's a good bit, I'll remember it. If it's a
Right.
really good bit, I'll remember it. If I forget it after 2 days, probably wasn't that good of a bit. And it also forces me to constantly be coming up with new stuff and improvising on stage, because I can't think of things. I'll be like, oh God, I can't think of any of my jokes right now. So then that's when I'll try new stuff. I have some little thing that I scratch down on my phone. That's when I'll try that. But yeah, I used to have a plan in the beginning. I would have set lists and everything would be word for word. But again, in the idea that, like Phil was talking about earlier, about making it seem conversational, the more you move away from a plan, the more you move away from a set list, the more it starts to seem conversational. And I always say this too, audiences are so stupid. Like what we're doing is complete trickery. Like it's complete, we're carnies, they're rubes. We're fooling them into laughing. But they're inherently really smart at sniffing out when you're terrified. They're sniffing out when you're new, sniffing out when you're reciting material that you've memorized. Like, for as much as they don't know, they know a lot that can hurt you on stage,
Yeah.
just instinctively. And I think it's just because we're humans and we're used to sniffing out BS in people. So they can tell when you're full of it,
Yeah, and I also think it's like almost like that. What you're saying is like the natural progression of a comedian. It's like when you first start out, you have to remember every tag, you have to remember every punchline, everything you want to say. And then after a set, if you look at your set list and you realize you missed like 3 of the punch or whatever you want, and you're so hard on yourself, but then you realize that like the audience has no idea that you're going to say those things. So it's like those are things that are just like to keep in mind but it's also like it's not make or break. Like like sometimes you think that, oh man, if I would have said that, then they would have lost it. That would have been the kicker, but it may not have been either. You know what I mean? Like you could have
Yeah.
said it and bombed, and then like that could have thrown off your confidence too. So it's like it's almost like getting away, like almost like learning all the rules of comedy to unlearn them, and like finding your voice, and as you grow, like it's just like, yes, of course, like I think we've all had the, all the notes and everything like that. It was just like we want to hit everything
Yeah.
down for that, but then like when it comes down to it, it's just like if you don't say something, you don't say something.
Some of the earliest advice my wife ever gave me was, I was like, in my early days, I had my 5-minute sheet in front of me, and one of the improvs, comedy
Mhm.
competitions or whatever it was. And I'm looking at it. My wife comes walking over. She goes, "Put that shit down. You're funny. Just go up and be funny. You're doing 5 minutes for God's sakes."
Yeah, that's it is. It's an evolution though. Like you said, in the beginning, you're afraid and you need all those extra tags. And we've all watched a comic do something that he's rehearsed, but the crowd has disconnected and they don't acknowledge it and they never get them back because they're so stuck in the I gotta say this how I wrote it in my notebook. It's gotta be
Yeah.
like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. And again, it gets you farther away from being connected. And I hate to be all woo woo and hippie on you, but there is a legitimate energy exchange between a comedian and a good show and a
Yeah.
good audience. And like it can ramp up. It can start out down here and by the end you're all way up here. And it doesn't happen with every audience because it's a different random collection of people. But that energy exchange is real and you can't have it if you're just reciting material. You
Yeah.
have to be talking to the people.
Yeah.
You have to talk to them, not at them. And it's hard to do because you're terrified in the beginning.
Right, and I love that. I think that that's a great statement that you just made, because like I mean that energy exchange is unreal. Because there's times when I have had a great set and I've almost like blacked out after I'm like, oh, I remember every one of those things that I said, but it was because of the reaction and what people were saying, and my reaction to what they were saying. It was almost like perfect setup punchline with the audience of just
Yeah.
like this beautiful energy, and you're like, man, I gotta remember this tag, I remember all these things. But then it's like after that moment, you're like, when you come down from the high, you're like, man, I don't even remember what happened in that show. But it was just like you just know that it was just great. You just know that the people were so receptive of you, and that's what I think a beautiful comedy show is like it doesn't matter necessarily what you say as long as that like you can feel that
Oh
energy.
yeah.
It's like that's what we live for right
That's
there.
huge. And that kind of brings me to two. I think that makes me think of two things. One, where that happens, right? Like when you're on stage and somebody says something, and then it just causes you out of nowhere to come up with something. Like there's nothing better to me than being on stage and making something up right there. Like something happens, and
That's basically how I write most of it. In times of desperation, I'm like, oh, you better think of something, and there it is.
And it's gold for that point forward, right? I mean, that's the best feeling. And then you have the opposite of that, where you have a line or you have a joke or there's something that always gets a great reaction from somebody, and then you do it one night and you're like, nobody.
Yeah,
It's like
nothing.
did somebody not hear me? Did the mic? And it's a weird thing to handle, And
It's because you deliver it with a different level of confidence. You're so confident it's going to work that you just throw it out, and because you didn't try, like like you could say one word. It can, even if it's a one word punchline, there's ways to say it differently. Like you care and like you don't care, and you said it like you didn't care because you thought it was going to work, and the audience doesn't believe it because you didn't believe it. It's such a weird exchange you have, man. That's why shows. Like people always complain about small audiences. Some of the best shows I've ever had are 15, 20 people in a room. And it's because it's easier to connect. There aren't any distractions. You're not distracted by all the people that may not like you. Like it's just easier to connect with them. You can have amazing shows. So
that's awesome.
Some real hippie stuff, man.
Well, speaking of some hippie stuff, and I have some questions every once in a while in the beginning part of the show. I like to ask you guys questions to get your feelings on it. They're usually out of the blue, off from left field. But tell me, let's start with you, Phil. But who actually built the pyramids?
Oh, yikes. That's a great question. I mean, I do want to say some aliens. And I'm not talking across the border. I'm talking about, some help. Maybe it was like the people, maybe we built them, but we had some extra help. Maybe we had like some people were coming in at night, or the aliens were coming in at night, and they're like, all right, let's give them a couple more bricks. They only got 3 today, and let's give them some more confidence. And then they kept building them, and they're like, the workers would come back and be like, "Oh my God, I don't even remember doing this work, but this is great."
Yeah, Yeah, and everybody in Egypt had a lisp, so that's pretty good.
Yes, they did.
I didn't know
Yeah.
the Egyptians were walking around like this. Oh, we got to pull more blocks.
Well, didn't they do? They did a lot of butt stuff back then, right?
I mean, I'm those Egyptians. I mean, they were weird.
Maybe if you knew that you had butt stuff waiting at home, you'd be more willing to go push some rocks up a pyramid.
Right.
Yeah, I think that could
That's
be
the second joke of mine that fell flat on you two, and I've had enough of it. All right, I'm sick of it. I'm gonna blame it on the internet. It must be the time.
It's the
It's the
connection.
timing.
It's the lag, man. That lag is
That
like,
Zoom
oh,
lag, man.
Yeah, you were just so confident that we were going to crack up that you just didn't.
I was
really
I was as confident in that as you were in your joke on stage that bombed. Yeah, I was like, this one's gonna murder. Watch this. I'm gonna break Zoom with this one.
There you go. Well, I agree. I think I love the TV show Ancient Aliens. You know what I mean? Could have Ancient Aliens help them build the pyramids? Ancient alien philosophers say yes, and why don't they say no ever? Well, that's good.
I think it was actually Phil hinted at, but I do think it was the Mexicans that come to this country illegally. I think they did it. So I think at the
They're like-
beginning, yeah.
I like
That one I'm glad you guys laughed at because that one could have got you canceled or
Yeah.
me for that matter.
The Pharaoh went over to Home Depot at the time and go, "Hey, you guys,
Okay,
jump
Dougie,
into
come
the
on,
truck."
man. That seems a little far. That's a little much.
Come on, I'm getting canceled." All
That's close.
right. All right. Well, here's another question. Which one of your exes is the most memorable and why?
That's for Phil, right?
It's for both you guys, actually. So,
Oh,
Wait,
which one?
what do you? Who do you think built the pyramids? Before we answer this question, Mike.
Me? I'm with you. I'm all in on aliens, man.
Okay, cool, cool.
I can't see why. Although I did hear Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about with all the photo taking technology we have nowadays, how are there no good photos of them? Which does make you wonder, because we have all these photos from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the blurry photos. In the age of everyone having a phone, if they exist, it feels like there'd be more believable videos and photos than blurry dots on screen still in 2021. But
Well, now
I still believe.
well, nowadays we got Air Force and we got military video of these things that are I think they're Chinese drones, supersonic drones.
Yeah, I believe that before. Honestly, I'd probably believe that before I believe aliens.
Yeah.
But I want it to be aliens.
Yeah, me too. That's
And I
probably-
want alien chicks to be into like 50-year-old middle-aged bald guys. That's my dream is there's a planet of hot chicks and they come here and they're only interested in worthless earthlings.
Wasn't that one of your first sexual fantasies? Like you get picked up by aliens, all these Amazonian aliens, and they bring
Sounds
you
like
up.
a Star Trek thing. Sounds like
Yeah.
it might be a Star Trek thing.
I may have channeled some Star Trek episodes.
Well, there's a reason that was an episode on Star Trek, because some writer has been thinking of that his whole life.
and you're laying on the bed and you're like, you're going to touch that, and that's always a good thing. Which one of your exes is the most memorable and why? I mean, I always answer. Mine's very simple. I had an ex-girlfriend that was bisexual, so that got me into that explorative mode for about a year, and that's
Oh,
what
man.
that's
Only a year?
Yeah, about a year and a half. Our relationship was all that.
Wow.
I'll say mine is this girl I dated for 30 days. Her name was Michelena, which I've never even I just love the name. And I met her leaving Vegas on an airplane, and she was her stop was my layover, and we had just literally we had talked the whole time, and when we were talking at the airport, I was just we were just flirting, we're hitting it off, and I was like, hey, listen, I should pretend like I'm your boyfriend so I could sit next to you. And she's like, I'm so about it. So we made this couple move, and they it shifted for us, and we're holding hands, we're kissing on the plane. I'm like, man, this is awesome. And then I thought it was a great idea to ask her to be my girlfriend. And so I did. And then I went off. I was actually on a comedy tour at that moment. And so we were talking, and then halfway through the tour, I ended up flying out to see her. And we had a great time. It was everything that I've ever wanted. And then 2 days later, she's like, I don't think this is going to work out. I was devastated. I was heartbroken. I thought that I had found the one, but I was like, no, it was probably just the biggest thing. But it was still just the craziness of just doing all that and only dating for 30 days. I was like, well,
She was married. She was married, Phil. That was the deal. She was married.
yeah.
She carried it on, and when she couldn't, she moved on.
Yeah.
Or Phil's a horrible piece of ass. I mean, it could be that too. I mean, your hair is enraging. The fact that you have a full head of hair, I can't stand that. It's been bothering me the whole show.
I can tell you what conditioner I use if you want.
Oh, don't even. Now you're just being a jerk.
And he's in shape and he's tall. He's, that kind of stuff happens to a guy like that. Mike? What's your?
I actually met the same girl on an airplane, so that's the
How
reason
long did
she
you guys
left Phil. Well, I'm still with her, Phil. So
Oh,
there you
wow.
go.
Maybe you're the one that she left me for.
No, I would say the probably my second girlfriend that like went away to college and swore she wouldn't leave me, and then proceeded to leave me, and that's the one that taught me that women shouldn't be trusted and they're all evil, basically.
Yeah.
Long story short.
I remember that relationship I had with one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Would you? Next question. Would you want to live forever?
No, I'm done already. I'm 49, and like another 5 years, seriously, maximum.
Got that.
Have you ever seen a happy old person? They don't exist. They're always complaining about some part of their body.
Right.
And I've already watched everything on Netflix, so what do I have to look forward to?
Good point.
Yeah, I would have to say that too. Like, so if I'm living forever, if I'm living like, maybe in my peak 20s forever, I would say, I would do it all day.
Good point.
Every day.
Good
but
point.
like, if I'm gonna be aging with the world, like, I don't know, I feel like at a certain point, like when all your family members die and everyone, like, you're alone, and like you build these new relationships and then they die off, and then it's like this thing of like you're like the only person left in the world because you're been living through all these generations. I mean, that can get kind of sad and depressing, I feel like.
Yeah, because life is sad and depressing anyway. You want to make it longer?
Well,
Yeah, so I guess you're right. So I guess the philosophy is you wouldn't want to live longer if you have a lot more negative type things happen in your
Right.
life.
Yeah, if I was 25 and got to bang 25-year-olds the rest of my liff, then I'll live forever.
Yeah,
Bring it on.
That's like the vampire immortality aspect, right? Like you're
Mhm.
always in that, in that sexy vampire mode where you're banging everybody, and not the geriatric mode. All right. Well, here's what we're gonna do. We got some time left. I want to go into our segment called "The News is a Joke." We all know that. I don't know if you guys ever use topical humor, but sometimes I do like to, how do you say, use some of the news to bring up some of the topics are actually jokes. But here's our first story. Heinz starts petition to make hot dogs and buns come in equal packs. Finally.
I mean, haven't we been waiting for that forever? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
Why do they want to ruin the material of hundreds of 80s comics by changing that? There's no reason to change
The
that.
first thing I thought when I read the story.
And by the way, it makes you buy more buns or more hot dogs. One of the two. I don't remember which one has more, but it causes you to buy more of the other. So it's a marketing scheme.
Yeah, I think there are usually more hot dogs, right?
Yes.
Because there's usually 12 probably in a pack, and there's only 8 usually hamburger or hot dog buns.
Do you think there was like a backdoor deal? Like the bun people got together with the hot dog people. They're like, here's what we got to do to drive up sales.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't like eaten a hot dog and a piece of bread? Like you get stuck at, I got to eat. How come everybody gets a bun and I get a piece of bread? Or have you ever made a sandwich with a hot dog bun?
Absolutely.
I'm the same.
Yeah, I grew up poor. I've made a sandwich with everything. Every flat surface food I've made some sort of a sandwich with.
Yeah.
I can't think of any examples of flat food, but
Or maybe their whole philosophy was like, let's put these 8 buns in here because there's guaranteed at least 4 people who are on the Atkins diet and they just don't eat gluten. So,
wait, there's less. Is there less buns or more? Which one is it? More
Less
hot
buns.
dogs.
More hot
less
dogs,
buns,
but-
more hot dogs. Okay. All right, carry on.
it
I'm having
sounds
trouble
like a
with this
terrible
math.
party too. Like we should reverse that, if anything.
Yeah. By the way,
More
how old are
buns.
the people at this party? 9? Why are we having hot dogs at a party? It's 2021.
When's the last time you ate a hot dog, Mike?
It's been years, man. And I was probably at a baseball game. That's probably the last 8 hot dogs I've eaten in my life were probably at a baseball game.
What baseball games?
Yeah.
Hot dog or hamburger? Which one's preferable?
I gotta go hamburger.
Hamburger all day.
Yeah.
Load me up.
I agree. I'm getting hungry, so I'm going to get off this subject. All right. We just had a contest. They had July 4th. That guy.
Oh yeah, the
77
Joey Chestnut.
dollars. Jeez, he is the GOAT.
76 is what he
Oh,
got.
76.
Yeah.
Okay. 70 in San Francisco, Gay Men's Chorus faces backlash for recording a music video that they're coming for your children video.
So their video was that they're coming for your children.
They actually had a video of the choir singing a song that we're here to influence them. See some of the "We'll convert your children" happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You'll
I
keep
kind of
them.
like it. I kind of
Yeah,
like that.
it-
That's pretty
it-
funny.
You'll keep them from. You can keep them from the disco. Warn about San Francisco. Make them wear pleated pants. We don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
What's the name of the group?
A San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. Didn't give them a name. But
I'd imagine there's a lot of San Francisco gay men's choruses.
yeah,
I
they didn't
imagine
narrow it down.
there's not just one.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's many.
Like one of them.
Yes.
Well, people are mad about everything. It seems like those guys just did that to be silly and to make the type of people mad that would be mad about that type of thing, you know? But people with a sense of humor and, you know, some common sense, I think, shouldn't be upset about something like that.
It's definitely it's a poking measure. It's a poking measure.
Yeah, they're just doing it to be provocative.
About poking the bear. Later, the lyrics continue. We'll convert your children. Someone's got to teach them not to hate. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children.
I just don't. I think they could have found a different word besides coming. Like, I think,
true.
couldn't you find a different hook? Seems a little aggressive,
Yeah,
a little too on the nose.
I think that's what really frustrated.
Are they
me.
going to convert my kids, or are they jerking off to my kids? Which
Well,
one?
you know,
is it?
I mentioned this, and I can share this. This is a personal experience. I'm not just being like, you know, like a homophobe or when it comes to. But I mentioned my girlfriend being bi, right? The last year and a half of our relationship, and I can tell you that a lot of the girls, like, you know, in that community, they wanted to get her. I mean, there was moments like they would go to these parties and stuff. She'd go to the party and I go, hey, you're coming. She's like, oh no, well, you know, she's been partying. She's going to stay with us. I'm like, no, I'm going to come pick her up. You know what I mean? Like, no, duh. You know, there was like, we almost got into a fight with one girl because she was trying to bang my girl. You know what I mean? So
And she's a lesbian, so she probably would have kicked your ass.
perhaps, but
Can you even make these jokes anymore? I don't know. You're probably gonna have to edit that part out.
Yeah, we're probably gonna. No, but she probably could. Matter of fact, because I would never hit a girl. I mean, I would just have to sit there and take the blows.
Oh, I'd hit a girl.
Yeah.
I'd hit her, yeah, for little or no reason, just for fun, just for fun,
Yeah.
because it's easy. They can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
All right, I probably shouldn't have added that last part.
Edit, another edit. Quick edit.
We got to go back on that one. Well, there you go. All right, the next story. Now, here's the thing. Herd of drunk Indian buffaloes. I didn't, you know, I guess I didn't know there was regular non-Indian buffaloes. I consider most
Okay.
buffalo Indian. A herd of drunken Indian buffaloes exposed a hidden stash of contraband liquor and got a group of farmers arrested. So a bunch of Indian buffaloes show up drunk into town.
Why are they Indian buffalo? And aren't they bison in this country and not buffalo?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, why are we calling them Indian buffalo?
3 Indian farmers were arrested for selling illegal alcohol after a herd of buffaloes got drunk on their.
Oh, it's the
rooftop.
Indians buffalo.
Yes.
That's why we're saying it like that.
Yeah, I didn't know there was.
Come on, let these bison have a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I think we
just
should get more animals drunk, right? Could you
I know.
imagine cats wasted on vodka? That'd be awesome.
I'm just glad the buffalo didn't find my cocaine stash. Turns out the bottles of liquor had been hidden in a trough. 3 tipsy buffaloes blew the cover of an illegal stash in India after getting drunk from water in a trough that hid the moonshine bottles. And
so what did they go to one of those police stops or something like that? They were crossing the field and they were like, no, okay, get the sobriety test in.
Was it sobriety checkpoint? That's how they got them.
God dang, I told you to go the other way.
cop pulls over the Indian buffalo. How much have you had to drink? Tapping his hoof. Yeah. One of the farmers had called a vet when the buffalo stopped eating and started frothing at the mouth.
How would you do a sobriety test on a buffalo? Would you like put a fat white tourist in front of them and have them run at it and see if they could hit them? If they miss them, then they're drunk. Or
Yeah.
Hold that red flag up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. What would be the alcohol test on a buffalo? I mean, do they walk straight? I don't know. Make them recite the alphabet. But good. Like I said, I'm just glad they didn't find my other stash.
good luck getting a urine sample from one, huh? Hey guys. All right.
Yeah, a breathalyzer. I don't know if you
probably
got.
tastes good too. You know,
Yeah, I mean, it's been
Italian,
marinated. It's been a
Beer
bit.
better.
Marinated.
buffalo.
Now, here, what I thought was interesting there is moonshine in India. I didn't realize that it's gotten out of Kentucky and in the certain rural areas.
Isn't that just a human thing? Like making your own hooch? That's been around forever. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it on MASH. I know Hawkeye and Pierce made their own hooch.
Oh, how old are you, Dougie? Jeez, you're giving MASH references?
I know. That was right after watching.
What did they do on the Mayflower? Like, jeez Louise.
And it was right after watching Good Times. Now, sometimes I don't know if you guys athletes played football. I think Phil, you played sports. You were
football and wrestled.
Phil looks like he played sports.
Yeah, he looks like he just got done playing sports.
It looks like he's wearing a singlet right now.
I am, yes. I usually wear that to keep my high school days alive. But I actually used to compete in strongman competitions.
No kidding.
So yeah.
Wow.
A couple of my day.
I take back all the negative things I've said to you today. I had no idea you had the ability to kill me.
I'll see you at your house, Mike.
Or at least throw me over a wall or whatever you guys do.
Oh yeah. You do a lot of that.
Yeah,
you'll run me over with a bus that you're pulling with a rope. That's how you fight. That's the only way a strong man can fight.
He'll drop
off. Let me go flip this tire real quick.
Hang on, get on the other side of this tire, bro. Yeah. It's on.
He'll drop an anvil on your head like it's an Acme commercial.
Another modern reference, Dougie.
Thank you again.
Yeah, very good.
But being in wrestling, I was a fighter. I actually was a professional Thai boxer. So, but
okay, I take back everything I've said to you. Then as well.
That's why I threw it in there, smart ass.
I'm the biggest pussy in the bunch here. I've done nothing. I've been in 3 fights and I've won all 3.
You mentioned wrestling, and they're all women, but that was besides the point. There were 3 girls who beat their ass, and you mentioned wrestling because like I used to train in ground fighting and people, and but in wrestling, sometimes your hands can go certain places, and I've seen wrestling matches or heard wrestling matches where the guy will end up sticking his finger up a guy's ass, trying to get, like a dirty move. And
checking the oil, right? Isn't that what they call that? Checking the oil?
That's right. In Huddersfield, Edwards, 10-match player from Edwards, I guess it's an Australian rules team, got a 10-match suspension for inserting a finger into an opponent.
Wow. Or
Kenny Edwards has been banned for 10 matches for putting his finger up the bottom of an opponent. And New Zealand's, like a rugby type game, like rugby rules.
Wow, was that his game plan the whole time? I'm going to goose everyone?
He couldn't get it in his urethra, so he went for butthole.
Yeah.
That's like joke number 4 you guys have given
how were the refs on this one? Did all the competitors to go up to the refs and be like, hey, there's something weird. This guy keeps sticking his finger in my ass.
Yeah.
We'll watch out for that.
I know. Edwards was charged by the Rugby Football League match review panel with a grade F offense, the most serious available to it. The other contrary behavior, and referred to the independent tribunal, which handed out the punishment following a hearing when the man who had his finger shoved up his ass showed up and farted with nobody hearing it. The Catalans team, Joel Tompkins, was suspended for 8 games for a similar offense last year. Let's see what he did. Yeah, we're stuck. They like sticking fingers up people's ass. Oh, he grabbed the guy's testicles.
Oh, okay.
Now I've seen that in football. When I played young kid football, I remember that happened. You're in a scrim, everybody's tackle, and you reach and you grab the guy's butt and squeeze his balls while he's on the ground. I mean, that happens in real NFL. I mean, there's been situations like that.
In one of the first few UFCs, there was a guy there was one guy that grabbed the other guy's dick and balls and twisted it, and then another guy, he had him in some sort of a hole, and the guy had one arm free, so he just starts punching the other guy in the dick, like repeatedly, just punch. And the guy's not wearing a cup; he's just punching him in the dick, and that was like an okay move. So you could just look up UFC punching in the dick; it's hilarious.
Yeah. Back in the original days of UFC, where there was no rules, remember that?
I remember there was a guy came in with a ponytail on top of his head, and the other guy took it and wrapped it around his hand and held onto his ponytail and just kneed his face over and over, and the guy could do nothing because he put a handle on his head.
Yeah. Wow. Those early days weren't smart. Like the guy would come out with boxing gloves, right?
One boxing glove.
Yeah, and he'd have like a 12-ounce glove on.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to protect the opponent from getting hurt? You stupid. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, moving on. toy advertised as a kid-friendly toy in Taiwan, sings Polish raps songs and talks about cocaine. So I don't know if you saw the photo. It's like a little cactus, and they sell it in Taiwan, and it sings songs. And then somebody finally translated the songs and say in Polish. They said, "Hey, you know what they're saying? Oh, aren't they talking about kids and dancing? No, they're talking about rapping and doing cocaine."
I love it.
I like it. Yeah, I'm
That's
into
great.
it. I think that we need less PC stuff and whatever. Like, get these kids the most effed up toys, and they don't even know. Like, that's perfect. That's great.
And I think the main thing is we need more Polish rappers. I mean, I can't
I
even.
know.
When was the last Polish rapper we had? I'm trying to think of Polish rapper jokes. Like,
Try to come. Yeah,
yeah. I'm just trying to think of what's the opposite of having bitches and jewelry? I don't know what the opposite of that is, but that's what a Polish rapper would talk about, I guess. I live in a modest home and I drive an electric vehicle.
Having a rash and playing with plastic. The toy maker claims a dancing cactus can stimulate imagination and creativity in children, while another online baby product site describes it as a good device for toddlers.
Wait, say it again. Read that again.
Says the toy makers claim that the dancing cactus can stimulate imagination and creativity in children, while another online baby product site describes it as a good device for toddlers.
Wow. I mean, like, I think Polish rappers should be our influence for children,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
not that black rappers are doing a bad job, but let's mix it up a little bit. Let's show them there's, I can't just keep playing that Vanilla Ice album over and over for them. I need some other examples.
Yeah, and we know the words that our urban rappers, our black rappers use. I just wonder what the Polacks, are saying.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Thank God the internet froze up while I said that.
Oh yeah.
that could have gone horribly
There is
wrong.
no proof. There's no proof he said that, everybody. Yeah, and let's see this story. The driver choking on a baggie of pot saved by troopers, Heimlich maneuver.
Wow.
I'm joking. Come here. No, don't pull me up.
You're supposed to take it out of the bag before you eat it.
I mean, I remember the days. You remember, I don't know if like you were drinking when you were underage in high school or something like that. A cop would pull up, you'd like get rid of the beer or whatever, And I remember one time being with my friends, and the guy was throwing the weed out the car, man, and my buddy beat the shit out of him because it wasn't a cop car. It was one of those, and it was like, and you threw all our weed out. I remember being in Mexico at a strip club and having a bag of that with me and doing it in the male bathroom, and somebody knocked on my door and said, "Give me your cocaine."
Oh man, that would have been terrifying.
Yeah, and I immediately flushed it down the toilet, of course, and it came out. And I go, "I don't have it," so I had to give the guy $50 to go to a Mexican prison.
I got pulled over once. I had a buddy in the car. He had weed and he had a scale, one of those old metal scales that you would weigh like postage with. And as the lights came on behind us, he panicked, rolled the window down, and threw the scale in the bag out the window. But the scale is chrome, so the cop's lights like just made this huge like sheen right off of it. You could see it plain as day. And the cop walked up. He's like, "I saw what you threw out of that." Like he knew right away. He could see it plain as day. But
yeah, you panic. You don't know any better when these kind of things happen. But yeah, it says here, an Ohio trooper jumped into action when the driver choked on a baggie of marijuana, video shows. I mean, it's not even a bad offense. Like if you get it caught most anywhere, you just get a ticket for $100.
One time I was working with this guy, Dog. You ever heard of Dog? He's a comedian, Dog, the mighty Dog. Anyway, good dude. We do a show together. We're driving home after the gig. I'm hammered. I assume he's hammered. We get pulled over because he stops in the middle of the road to look at a map. This is how long ago it was. He had to look at a map. And cop pulls us over, takes him back to the squad car. I'm assuming we're going to jail. So I ate all my weed. I ate all the weed that I had. He comes back up to the car, gets in, and we just starts driving away. I'm like, how'd you get away with that? He's like, "I didn't drink tonight. I'm completely sober." I'm like,
"Oh no.
I just ate all my weed, dude. I just ate everything, man."
Yeah. Now was this old weed with seeds, or was this recently
Well, I cleaned it. There was no stems and no seeds. So I never traveled with stuff that needed to be cleaned. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And how'd you feel after that? Anything?
No, it turns out I thought it affected me, but I found out years later that you can't get high by just eating marijuana because you have to release the cannabinoids by getting it up to a certain temperature or some nerdy science thing, but you can't just eat weed and get high. But I felt like I was high at the time.
There was a guy right now.
But that could be because I was high at the time.
Yeah, she didn't realize it.
Yeah,
that'll happen. Yeah, well, good for him. And our last story, India is proposing a 2-child policy to keep its population under control. And it includes cash benefits for couples who opt for sterilization.
Oh, shit.
Now,
is it going to be mandatory like China, though? Like, are they going to?
Remember what happened in China when they did that? Now there's a bunch of men in China that don't have girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a societal issue there. And that's why.
And honestly, I thought China was doing the right thing. Like, I mean, we do need less women, but they went too far with it.
Well, it was the population, right? Because every Chinese.
All right, you guys, that's joke number 5, and you guys just staring at me over and over is really getting annoying.
No, I'm telling you,
Phil's staring between that luscious head of hair he's got there. He's got the pieces over his eye like he's a model.
Yeah.
It's like he's hating me from the cover of Men's Health magazine.
You disgusting. Well, yeah. You want to try it again? Never mind.
I already forgot it.
Well, that's obviously we know the news, right? Like in China, they want a boy, so the Chinese would have a girl, and what they do, they kill the baby.
Mm-hmm.
They would actually get rid of it, and then they would know. So you have legions of men in China that are committing suicide because they don't have companionship.
Well, and they also have tiny penises too.
Yes,
there's a lot of factors there
because they're Chinese. That's got to factor in.
Yeah. But you're right, and but to pay money now, you have children. You have a couple boys, right, Mike? If I remember.
Yep.
Yeah. And
14 and 10. Yeah.
Nice.
And I've sterilized myself. So I got the snippety snip. Best damn thing I ever did. Should have done it when I was 20.
Yeah. You don't got a good pull-out game?
No, I do.
Yeah.
It was just a blatant insult towards my children. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, I love my kids. I'm glad I had them.
They won't listen to this podcast yet.
That's true. Nobody will.
Now, Phil, you can't have kids with hair like that.
I'm staying single.
There you go. And how old are you now, Phil?
30. Just turned 30.
All right. That was my best year because I just bought a nice big house when I was 30. I was making 6 figures.
Damn.
You know what I mean? I was loving life at 30.
I haven't made 6 figures total in my life.
It's nice. Well, there you go.
Cool.
So that's all we have time for here on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show.
I feel great. I feel like we covered a lot of news.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of news. We covered a lot of comedy.
There was at least 3 or 4 things in there that could get any one of us canceled. I mean, probably I'll get canceled and you guys will get canceled by association.
Right.
Because you didn't stick up. You didn't stick up for the whatever group it was I was insulting.
Let me ask you that because I just had this conversation with somebody, and this was going back to last summer, and I had a comic that said to me, "Hey, your silence is just the same as not saying anything."
Nah, I think you can be silent. I don't have to inject myself into every argument.
Is that true? Like you don't have even if you have an opinion of something, you just may not want to share it because.
What does it get you? What does sharing your opinions get you? Likes from other people? I mean, it's such a weird thing we live with now with the social media and stuff. It's like,
let me ask you that. How important is it to do that? Because during this whole thing, like it was funny because somebody mentioned this to me is like, by your material, by my material, people just assume I'm Republican, I'm red, and I'm a Trump guy and all this kind of stuff, which I am Republican, I am conservative, And that's why it was funny when I was in Stir Crazy. I was like, wow, this is definitely not Portland.
Well, funny's funny if you're a normal person. If you're a normal person and can, listen to things that may upset you and not be a Karen and write a bad comment card. You should be able to listen to things.
Are you guys seeing that change? Are you guys starting to see that kind of? Because I remember I felt like it was worse at some point. I feel like it's kind of maybe lightening up. Do you see that changing in our field?
I do actually, yes. I mean, like the past like 5 or 6 months, I feel like the shows I've been to, a lot more people have been receptive to anything that's been spoken about. Like, just because I think that people just want to be entertained. And so I think that like comedy is always taking a shift, but I do think there was like a hard shift where people were so sensitive and could not like, anything you would say would just get you canceled. But now I feel like because we were so extreme and so sensitive, now the opposite end of the spectrum is like starting to shine. And I think that like, people are going to be like more lighthearted and ready to just just for fun. And like, that's really the point of comedy. Everyone who is offended at a comedy show is like, you don't really belong there anyway. Just because like, no comedians on stage, like I can't wait to tear down every race and, do all this stuff. It's like, that's not our goal. The goal is to make light of every hardship that we all share and, just make it relatable. And it's like, it's sometimes it's just funny, stereotypes are funny, something, all that stuff. If you can just like take it with joy or whatever, that's like, no one's up there trying to like bring you down. We're just trying to like bring everyone up the same level, if anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think audiences lately have been great because they're mostly right-wing audiences because everybody on the left is still afraid to leave the house. So I feel like that was another joke. God, you guys really.
No, you gotta smile at me.
I don't know.
It takes me a second because I realize after you say it, I'm like, okay, that was good. And then it's already too late.
Yeah.
With the internet lag, and then like.
No, but I do feel there's some truth to that. Like right now, I feel like you can, because it is, I mean, again, I'm not either side. I'm like you, Dougie, but I feel like a lot of the people that are coming out right now aren't afraid, and that seems like that'd be the people on the right. And so you seem like you can get away with more. But once the the lefties and the Karens start coming back out, then it'll go back to normal.
And like you mentioned, Phil, I think that is I definitely seen like my shows down here, they're selling out. You definitely seeing it, just the eagerness to get out there and be entertained. I think that is overshadowing the political correctness that we were dealing with. I definitely think that's a huge.
Hey, didn't we have enough of the back and forth fighting the last year while we're all sitting at home? Every one of these people, once they leave the house, they're like, I don't want to hear about any of that shit. Just tell some jokes and make me laugh. And
great point. Well, we hope that that's what people are going to do. With that being said, Mike, what's coming up on your end that you want to tell some people about?
I'll be in Vegas last week of August, but the big thing for me is the 8 albums on Pandora. The more people I get to subscribe on Pandora and give me thumbs up and all that crap.
You said 8 albums now?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But it's all just the same album made over and over and over. It's the same 9 jokes, but
I like it though.
No,
title card.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all up there. 20% of it's good, but enjoy it.
That's awesome. I want to get to that point because somebody says you have an album yet. I'm like, no, I just really want to get that hour, whatever it is, and just have it be that, and then boom, I got the name of it. I got the name of my album.
What's that?
Don't
you share it, or are you gonna keep it?
I'll share it. I mean no harm.
No,
that's great.
Someone's gonna steal it.
Yeah,
I already stole it.
It online, man. You gotta edit that out.
That's kind of funny. That's the name of my next album.
Oddly enough,
kind of cool.
You're already in recording for it too. Yep. So like,
whoever gets it out first, that's who gets the name, bro.
And he's got the same 9 jokes from the first album.
Darn right I do. I'm not gonna write new ones.
Phil.
I have a comedy special out right now called Who Am I to Say No? It's on YouTube. Very excited about that. Trying to get some traction on that. But I did just direct my first comedic web series that we are releasing in January called The Edward Chronicles. So nice. I'm excited about that one.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Please, as our listeners and viewers, follow these folks. They're very funny. I look forward to seeing you guys at a comedy festival or a comedy contest, and we get to scream at each other for fucking losing or something. Who knows?
We could cry together. We could all cry together.
That's how it is. Hug.
Matter of fact, I will be at the World Series of Comedy at the House of Comedy coming up at the end of the month.
Nice.
So we're going to be in that area. That'll be fun. And I'm going to be at Stir Crazy featuring in the first weekend of October.
Oh, that's awesome. So we'll definitely be linking up in the future.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But other than that, guys, thanks for joining us. Everybody, don't forget to follow our show on Twitter at Wake Up Dougie and on Instagram at the Wake Up Late with Dougie Show. You can follow me at Dougie Dangerous on Instagram. And of course, because I got kicked off by some liberal skank off Twitter on my old Dougie Dangerous, I'm now at Funny Fiduciary on Twitter. That's it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. God bless. And we hope to see you here at the same spot next time. Take care.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Soup.
Wake up!